Yo, welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. And, we're excited to be back, excited to get going again. But before I get started, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know how you're feeling. Another lost week in so many ways this week. And so, what's going on? What's going on with this team? And we're going to get into it in a little bit, but I just want to caveat a little bit. Probably go back and forth on different things, just because it's just one of those weeks, and so I just want to what once I start talking and you guys are over there listening and probably be like, wait, he's going back and forth. It's just mainly because the first person we're going to start with, right? You know, we come off another losing week and no traction, right? Peralta is basically, um, when he's good, a 4 inning pitcher, or 5 innings at most, right? And here's the thing that we didn't realize: he had a nickname of 5 inning Freddy. That's not new. He's had that before this season. And what we didn't realize is that, yes, we brought him in here, or the Mets brought him in here, I should say. The Mets brought him into the ball club because he stayed on the field, and he's a guy that you can rely on. But at the end of the day, he was never going to be the ace of the Mets. He was just going to be that veteran presence that you can rely on. Uh, a guy that was going to be there for you. But the problem is that Freddie hasn't been there for us this year. Uh, with the debacle that was on Monday, and with the outing that he gave us today. Yes, we salvaged the win today, but that wasn't. At during the season, 4 innings isn't enough. Maybe that's a post season start, but during the regular season, you can't have a start like that. Um, Not from a guy that you're relying on, and so that's basically where we are with Freddie. Um, he's just the guy that we thought too much of. That's basically it. So that's game one and today. So that's kind of why I'm saying I'm going back and forth. Um, the bats came alive today, but I want to start off by talking about Peralta. John Heyman put out there that other ball clubs thinks it's the Mets' fault why Peralta's pitching the way he is, and good. You know, it's good that they think that way. I want them to think that way because guess what? We need somebody to take him off our hands and give us a good prospect right for him. Because the way that we view Peralta, we're not going to get any prospects for him. And so um, if other ball clubs view him more valuable than even the fan base views him, then that's a great thing. You know what I mean? That's the thing that we need to kind of dig into a little more and basically trade this guy. This is, at the end of the day, he can't make another start for us, for the Mets. Can't do it. At this point, he's probably scheduled for Friday, I believe, and I don't think he can make that start. One, you don't want him to make that start just because who knows what can happen. Two, you don't want him. He's coming off of semi, and I say semi because he went 4 innings, didn't only gave up 3 runs. I think of them. I think two earned, one unearned, and so here's the thing: you can't make him make that next start. You gotta let him let that one be his last start. Hopefully by the time you're listening to this, he's already traded, and so it's one of those things that he cannot bring us any more value than what he has right now. Um, right? He can't bring us more value than what he has right now. Because that is, hold on 1 second. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that, guys. Needed to fix something over here, but that's okay. But ultimately, that's the thing. He has no bigger value than he has right now, coming off of that outing today. So, so he needs to be traded. Um, he can't make another start for the Mets. What else? Well, he also needs to bring back a decent. If there are other executives that think that that we're the problem, that the Mets are the problem, then he needs to bring something back that's a pretty decent piece, right? You pin those whoever those executives are against each other and make it happen. Our offense, the Mets offense, kind of um, had 2 decent games, right? Second game of the and today, right? And that's it. Other than that, I don't know, for some reason we can't hit against the Dodgers this year. I don't know what that is. I don't know why that is, but we can't hit against the Dodgers this year, and that's a shame. But what can you do? But one thing I do know is that Beatty can't play the outfield. Absolutely not. Can't play the outfield. He's and what I don't understand is here's what I don't understand, and maybe some of y'all can help me figure this out. What I don't understand is why didn't they play Young in the outfield instead of Beatty? Um, Young's an outfielder, you know, and put Beatty at first. I know, you know, game on Saturday, Beatty had an error that nicked the runner, but I've seen that from veteran first baseman that happens to sometimes, right? I'm not gonna hold Beatty to that extreme standard to never make a mistake. Um, but I do know that he can't play the outfield because that was a catchable ball, and we could have won that game. The Mets could have won that game. And so, what does that mean? Um, he's an awesome utility infielder, right? He can play all the positions in the infield, and let him do that. Let him play the infield. That's There's nothing wrong with that. You don't need him to also play the outfield. Not when you had Tyrone Taylor on your bench. You don't need Beatty to play your outfield. I'm sorry to tell you. Or, let Beatty play first and Young in the outfield. I still don't understand why that wasn't even brought up as a question to Green and to Stearns is why wasn't that the option? Because Young's an outfielder. So I don't understand. But Scott lost that game because of that, and and there's nothing you can do about it. Um, in the Dodger series, Mania looked like Mania. Maybe, maybe just maybe because everybody's so desperate for pitching. Somebody bites on Mania. I don't know if that's possible, but maybe, just maybe, somebody bites on Mania because he's coming back to form. He's pitching better than Peralta. So why wouldn't you make it a Peralta thing versus, I mean, a Mania thing over Peralta? Yes, Peralta's younger and has more of the track record, but you know, right now Mania is pitching better than Peralta. So maybe, just maybe, somebody will take a flyer on him. I'm hoping. I'm hoping that's the case. But he looked good. He looked good on Friday. Um, Robert and Alvarez, big home runs, and Robert keeps putting up home runs like that, at least for this week. He should bring back a decent return. And obviously, Game Five Beatty cost us the game. Even though I'm not gonna hang him out to dry, he still cost us the game, right? And today, the offense comes alive, right? 3-run homer from Taylor, 3-run homer from Simeon, and um, and away we go. All right, enough of that. I know everybody wants to talk about who's going, right? But first, before we get into that, we got to talk about the Soto injury, right? Unfortunately, Soto injures his calf again. I don't know, did he come back too quickly before that he wasn't completely right? I have no idea. But as we all can see, an injured Soto was still leading the league, the NL, in OPS. And so, that's an injured Soto. And so, is he done for the season? Honestly, with the season the way it's going, or basically the season, Alvarez and Soto, after Tyrone Taylor's home runs, tried to, do the bucket on them, and instead they use a cooler, and the cooler closed on them, and so that's the Mets season in a nutshell, right there. Failure to launch. Um, what can go wrong goes wrong, even in the silly things. so, so it's that was the whole Met season, in that shot, um, um, trying to dunk Tyrone. But I digress. Go back to talking about Soto. At this point, because I just said what I just said, why do you want Soto back this year? We're not gonna, I'm still gonna watch the games. I'm still gonna enjoy the games. Well, enjoy is a strong word. I'm still going to watch because, one, I love baseball, and two, I love the Mets. So I'm still gonna watch the games and stuff like that, and I'm gonna hope for wins because it. What's the point of watching if you're not hoping for wins, right? So um, right there and then, that's what I'm saying. It's not that I don't want Soto to come back. It's that they told him 4 to 6 weeks, which would put him mid-September. What's the point of coming back for 2 weeks? So if he comes back, yeah, I'll love to see it. I'll watch him play because he's one of the best. But I don't care if he's done for the season or not at this point. Unless we go on this magical run, 2024 2.0, um, it's not going to happen this year for us. And so, um, why not make sure he's 100%, 100% healthy for next year? Um, and it's crazy. Both Soto and Lindor were hurt this year, and that's not something normal from those guys. Um, and so that alone tells you that this is just a bad year for the Mets. I think this happened the 2008 season with the Mets. Um, Obviously, it was a little different, but there was a lot of injuries, and you know, and it kind of derailed the season. And so let's hope that it doesn't continue on like it happened after 2008, where we just couldn't launch after that. But at this point with Soto, we just want him to get ready for next year. Um, we want him to come back and ready to go. And maybe we'll see some young noise, some more young players come up and play. And so that's my take on Soto. On the Stearns press conference, well, they were trying to get him to say that he's trading Lindor. I'm sorry to tell you, for anybody that wanted him gone, he ain't going anywhere. He ain't going anywhere. Stearns just basically said that. Um, Somebody's going to, one, have to eat that complete contract, and two, blow him away with something. Um, you know, um, I would say Jesus Made kind of blown away. That's the only way. One, Lindor's still a top player. I know guys are going to go nuts about that. He's still a top player. He's one of the top shortstops in the game. He's still one of the top players in the game. And until he has two consecutive seasons like this, then we can talk. But as of now, he's one of the top players in the game. And you don't get rid of a guy like that just because. Um, Boston did it when they got rid of Mookie Betts, and they're finally just now. Um, well, not just now, but you know what I mean. Um, you don't get rid of a guy like that, and so you keep Lindor around, and this is baseball. People don't have to be the best of friends. That's overrated. That's a talking point because the team is losing. That's all it is, and so we're going to leave it at that. Stearns basically said the young guys and our Hall of Famers are going to be our core. Who are the Hall of Famers? Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto. So, because I don't think Bichette's a good player, but I don't think he's being talked about in those circles yet. So it's obviously not Bichette. So he's basically saying that Lindor's not going anywhere. So with that being said, let's put that to bed. Let's put that to rest. Hopefully, there are no more talking points about that. Let's build around. This is a nice nucleus between Soto, Lindor, Ewing, Benj, and maybe Bichette. Maybe Bichette. I'm not sure if he's opting in or out of his contract. Um, he could be opting out. He could stay with the ball club. Who knows? But with those five, and maybe some other guys to fill in the rest of the spots. Obviously, we got Polanco still for another year. I was hoping that he would hit or start hitting, so that maybe another team wants to take him off our hands and take on that contract, and we wipe ourselves clean from that. But we'll see. He's still got a whole week left. Um, if he starts hitting this week, maybe somebody starts calling about Polanco. But until then, he's on this team. So we got right now. I'm gonna count six guys in the lineup. And if you want to count Young, I count Young. He's a nice player. Um, playing first base. You can count Young and Simeon. Obviously, I can't forget about Simeon. As far as next year, but the core itself, the young core itself, or the core of the team is Soto, Lindor, Ewing, and Bench. Those four guys. Um, Obviously, we can add to that. Obviously, Bichette can be part of that because he's a young player himself. He's only 28, and so um, if the Mets aren't that far off. The Mets aren't that far off, and they just need to make a couple tweaks. Obviously, the pitching needs to be consistent. Right, that was a big problem with our pitching this year. That it was actually consistently bad. And that's a big problem. So right now we got a good young nucleus. So let's talk about um, what's going to happen this week, right? First of all, like I mentioned at the top, Peralta can't pitch on Friday. I know he's scheduled to pitch on Friday, but he can't pitch on Friday. He needs to be traded. Or if he's not traded by Friday, he still can't make the start. I would push him back a day or two. Push him back a day or two, right? Just to make sure he doesn't pitch again for the Mets. And so that's the news on Peralta, that he can't pitch another day. Tyrone Taylor, as I put in the title, Tyrone Taylor is playing like a guy that wants to be traded. Who says no? He's playing like a guy that wants to be traded and and wants to play every day because he didn't start off the season this way. He's playing like this recently, and so by all means, there are a couple teams that need a center fielder, and we are more than well. So we basically, or an outfielder. He plays all the positions. We got one center fielder in Robert, and and another outfielder that can play all three positions in Taylor. There's teams that need that, and I'm not stressing about trading him in division. Either of those guys. Both of those guys are on expiring contracts. Both of those guys are um, probably not going to play for their ball club after this year. So what can they get you? Obviously, Taylor is going to get you less than Robert, most likely. I would think, because Robert has the more upside. But I don't know, because of this hot streak. Does it change the way that people view Taylor? Maybe. Um, just like the John Heyman tweet that other executives think that Peralta is being ruined by the Mets. We didn't ruin Holmes, but I guess because you're having a bad season, the Mets ruined them. I'm just gonna leave it there. It's all the Mets' fault. Always the Mets' fault. But Holmes was pitching pretty good for now a year and a half. But the Mets are the ones that ruin players, right? But I'm not gonna harp on that too much. I'll put it out there, but I'm not gonna harp on it too much. And then Taylor and um, and Robert. Um, there was a tweet out there that by Nightingale that the Mets are desperate to get off the Robert contract. Um, Desperate's a strong word, especially now that Soto's out. Because at the end of the day, the Mets aren't going to pick up his option. So him playing out the strings with the Mets, it really doesn't matter. You just hope that he brings back a decent prospect back if he does get traded. But desperate's a strong word when it comes to to Robert, because it doesn't matter if you don't get the prospect that you want. You don't need to trade him. It doesn't really matter. Um, and that's the key, right? It's getting the prospect that you want. And because if you don't believe in the prospect, why would you trade just to trade? It just doesn't make sense. This is not a team that needs to save money. The Mets aren't a team that needs to save money. So that is not the worry. So I wouldn't even stress about that. I wouldn't even think about that. It's about the return. And if he stays here, he stays here. So what? It's a lost season. Who cares? It's not like there's another young player beating down the door right now to needing to play in the outfield. I'm talking about the outfield, needing to play in the outfield. There isn't. So I wouldn't stress if Taylor doesn't get traded, or I mean, sorry, if Robert doesn't get traded or Taylor, because it really doesn't matter. Because if they're not bringing you back what you want, you're not going to just trade them just to trade them. And two, um, prospects are suspects, right? That's one of the things. And so if you don't believe in that prospect, why trade? Makes no sense. So if they don't get traded, I'm not going to be stressing it. If they do get traded, I hope that the prospect pans out. That's it. Now Alvarez. Now this has been a week talking about Alvarez being traded, and honestly, I'm open to it. I'm not going to say no. That I'm not open to it. I'm not going to if they come calling and come with a deal that you can't refuse. Right? He's still 24. He's still controllable. Right? And all those things factor into his price tag. And so, why would you want to get rid of a guy just to get rid of a guy? Leave him at the bottom of your lineup. I still think he needs to grow in some discipline at the plate, but he can do that and become a decent hitter. Most likely, probably not that superstar that we were expecting. But again, that's the why we have to change our perspectives. Again, I talked about this a couple episodes ago. Is a lot of fanfare came with Vientos, with Alvarez and Beatty and Mauricio to a certain extent, and we got to change our perspective, right? Alvarez may not be that superstar catcher that we expected. He may not be. Um, he still got a shot. He's 24. He still got a shot, but I wouldn't just trade him just to trade him. That makes no sense to me. No, no, no. So I wouldn't trade him just to trade him. Um, Terens, he just paid him. I think he's a quality backup. If he needs to start because we traded Alvarez, then so be it. I'm not going to say no. Again, I'm not here to um, want to keep Alvarez just to keep Alvarez. And so, yeah, that's it on that. I don't know how much more to talk about that. I don't want to just get rid of Alvarez just to get rid of Alvarez. He drives me crazy, drives me nuts, but I'm not trading him just to trade him. Who else? Weaver, obviously, scary play today. Awesome play to get out of the inning. Very athletic, more athletic than he looks, and so obviously that's our biggest trade chip. We got to bring back a haul when it comes to trading Weaver. We'll probably bring back some decent prospects for Minter and for Rayleigh, but the biggest trade chip we have is Weaver. And as much as I like him, it's okay. It's time to go, and it's unfortunate, but it's time to go. Man, if somebody comes knocking on for Williams, send them. Send them. As a matter of fact, somebody comes knocking for Williams, send him and keep Weaver. slip right there. So yeah, that's basically it, guys. I'm not gonna keep us out here too long. This is a quick pod. This is a frustrated pod because I want my team to win. I want the Mets to win, and so talked about Soto, talked about the press conference, talked about Lindor, recap the series. We got I talked about the potential trades. We got the Braves and the Marlins this week before the trade deadline, and so you know, do what do the Mets and Braves make a trade this week? That's the question. Um, I don't care. I don't mind as long as we get value back. So, guys, I'm gonna leave it there. We got a trade Peralta this week before Friday, um, or on Friday. I don't care. Trade him tonight, hopefully, whatever it is. But he can't make another start. But I'm gonna leave it there, guys. Subscribe to the channel, like this video. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know how you're feeling about the trades, what you're thinking should happen, and um, you know, um, and how the trade should pan out. Should we just get rid of guys just to get rid of guys? Should we just should we keep guys that are on expiring contracts for some prospects that may not pan out? I don't know. Um, Let me know in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling on replay. Tell me how you're feeling. But one programming note: we won't be coming to you. We'll come to you next week after the trade deadline. Um, there's an off day on Monday on the trade deadline, so we're gonna come to you after the trade deadline and talk about any trades and anything that's happened, and obviously recap the week. But these recaps recently have been pretty quick, just because you don't want to hear about the Mets losing anymore. So next week we're going to come to you after the trade line. But until then, guys, let's go Mets.